Most traders are one bad decision away from blowing up their account. But here's what nobody wants to tell you. Most quant traders are one bad data set away from blowing up their strategy. Because if your data is wrong, your backtest is science fiction, and fiction is going to lose you money. All right, your time is valuable. Here's exactly what I'm going to cover in this session. All right, so I got a couple things I'm going to show you. We've got the Quant Hedge Fund platform. This is a platform I've been building in Python. We are going to be sharing how data, basically the data pipeline, and goes directly into our back tests. We're going to talk about what we do to monitor our data today, and we're going to talk about the infrastructure that we built in Python to make all of this stuff happen. Okay, so again, your time is valuable. We're going to be covering the data sources. We're going to talk about the real flow, the ingestion, cleaning, storage, and research pipeline. We're going to talk about validation checks, something that a lot of people mistake or make mistakes from if they don't have these. And we're going to discover the full system. So you're going to see a whole live demo where I show you all of this stuff in action. All right. We're also going to do a 1-hour live deep dive workshop. I'm going to invite you at the end if you want to join this. And that's where Jason, my co-founder, and I, Matt, will show you our hedge fund code live. You can ask questions and get answers in real time. All right, with that out of the way, let's dive into it. We do have a quick disclaimer. Nothing in this video is financial advice. This is for educational purposes and entertainment purposes only. Do your own research and talk to a qualified professional before making investment decisions. All right, so in part 1 of this series, I showed you the 4-layer system. As a previous video that I covered the data, the research and backtest, the portfolio and risk, and execution monitoring at a very, very high level. Now we're going to go deeper and deep dive into each of these sections. We're now in part 5 of this series, and we're going to deep dive on the data layer. So that is the foundation of everything. Okay, so if your data layer is shaky or not correct, then everything above it collapses. So you want to have a very strong data layer. All right, so when I say data layer, what does that mean? What the heck is Matt talking about? Well, it's what data do you use? What data sources? How do you ingest it? How are you bringing it in? Where are you going to store that data? All right, is it stored in files? Is it stored in a database? And how do you guarantee it's clean and reproducible? This affects your strategies. If your strategies aren't reproducible, then there are probably problems in your data. So the bottom line is a hedge fund isn't a strategy. So when I talk about building a hedge fund with Python, what am I talking about? I'm not talking about just a simple strategy. It's the data, it's the research factory, it's all of the components and how they all interact together. And the data layer, think of that like the factory floor. You need to have it on solid footing, otherwise your factory is not going to be good. All right, so here are the data types that we ingest and what most of you actually need to get started doing this for yourself if you're trying to build your own quant hedge fund with Python. So first one is price data. This may seem odd, but what we're going to be using, what we typically use is data, open, high, low, close volume data, end of day prices. We have historical 30+ years of history for a huge, massive ecosystem of assets, equities, ETFs, and so on. All right, well, I'll actually show you those in a little bit. We also include important stuff like corporate actions. This would be like splits and dividends. This is where most people get burned. They forget to, factor in splits, and then all of a sudden a strategy looks great or looks terrible because a split happened. Also, what most retail traders, so people like you and me, we typically use price data, but we don't always include fundamental data because we don't typically have access to that unless you go out and search for that and get a good quality data vendor. So what I'm talking about with fundamental data is, and this is what separates a lot of hedge funds, is that they have access to earnings reports, income statements, cash flow, balance sheet data for all of these different equity companies that are out there. And that's needed for value strategies, for quality strategies, and also to enhance your momentum strategies. Also, reference data. So this would include things like company profiles, sectors, what sector different equities belong to, the symbol lists that you're going to be using, and then also optionally, there's alternative data, there's macro data, there's other data sources that we can include. Those are and as you get into more and more advanced strategies, you may want to kind of dive into those as well. All right. The key here, though, before I move on, the key is not which vendor, but rather the key is, can you reproduce the same data set tomorrow as you're producing today and get the same backtest results? Okay. So that's very important. This kind of idea of reproducibility as we utilize that data, create our strategies and then backtest those strategies. You want that consistency, that reproducibility. And if you come from a data science background like I do, reproducibility is one of the most important things to have to prove that you're actually coming up with good algorithms and good research. All right. So here's the real flow. So remember, guys, we're going to show you all of this here in just a minute, but this visual here actually shows you the real flow that we go through. And I'm going to show you guys all of this in a demo here shortly. So step one is the raw landing zone. I'm going to keep this as simple. I'm going to keep this super simple. So what we do is step one, we just are basically pulling data, and we're going to store it exactly as delivered from whatever API that we're going to connect up to. There's no transformations. There's nothing that we're going to do. We're just going to store the raw data. Okay. That's because it's our audit trail. We want to know exactly what it looked like when it came from the data vendor. Then we move on to step two. And that's where we're going to standardize the data. We're going to clean the data. What am I talking about there? We're going to do things like normalizing column names. We're going to be fixing types, handling time zones, removing duplicates, handling missing values, those types of things that are common in data science. We want to apply those same tools and techniques to our price data, our fundamental data, to make sure it's all pristine. Okay. Next, once we have that taken care of, we're going to store it in a research-friendly format. So what are we going to use? Well, specifically what we use is a database. So we're going to actually store it in a SQL database that's going to be optimized for fast backtests. Okay. One of the big mistakes here that I think a lot of beginners make is this idea of versioning. So a big mistake is that you're just going to download all these files and then you're just going to use them and then you're going to kind of lose track of things, right? What we want to do and what really kind of separates a hedge fund is we're going to version everything. We're going to constantly be downloading fresh data, and we want to have audit trails of which snapshots we're using and those sorts of things. So if I run a back test, say today, and it looks amazing, and then I rerun the same back test in a month and the results change and it looks terrible, then that's a big red flag. We want to analyze for that, and we want to make sure that we've got a good audit trail. So we version our data sets and we make it reproducible. Okay, so same inputs equals same outputs. All right, this slide is the most important part. So you want to take notes right now. This is what we call our data validation checklist. So everything that we do inside of our hedge fund is listed right here. Okay, so we're going to see that we've got all sorts of data problems that can exist. Here are the checks that we run. We do missing data scans. So we're looking for holes in our price series, any gaps, any things that are wrong in our price series, any big spikes, those types of things. Outlier detection. So bad spikes or zeros or volume anomalies or negative values like that. In price data, you shouldn't have negative values, but sometimes it happens. Corporate actions. We want to check for split adjustments and make sure there's continuity, make sure everything looks good there. Another thing is what we call survivorship bias. Okay, so a lot of data sets you'll find they don't keep a legacy of stocks that say went bankrupt or those types of things. So you want to make sure that your universe is as complete as possible and doesn't just have the active stocks that are being traded today of the stocks that have previously traded. And that's really important when you're analyzing large stock universes to make sure that your back tests are accurate compared to what investment choices you could have made, historically. Duplicate or stale records, that goes without saying. You want to make sure that duplicates are taken care of. There are no duplication. Schema consistency. So if your API provider changes the schema. You need to be aware of that. You need to know kind of if your code is going to be, if your backtests are going to be able to be run and properly going to take into account all of the columns that you need to use from those data vendors. Okay, data freshness. So did the nightly refresh actually run? Well, I'll show you a data issue that I'm currently dealing with in my hedge fund. I have to go inspect. I just did a big upgrade, and we're running into one of these right now. So the good thing is I'm going to show you exactly how we detect that and how we can go off and resolve this. All right. Now we're ready for the live demo. So we've conceptually up to now talked a lot about the data layer, a lot about what a pipeline is, some of the things that we're looking at to validate. Now let me show you how we actually do this inside of our real hedge fund platform. And do me a favor. So if you see something that you want to learn more about as I show you this demo, please post that in the comments. That really does help me. I read all of the comments. This will help me and Jason know what to work on next, okay? And then also upcoming in the next video is going to be part 6. I'm going to show you what happens and how we take these clean data sets and the database that I show you here in a minute and how that feeds our backtest engine, okay? And how we actually validate strategies with walk forward testing. Okay, that was one of the biggest comments that we got in one of our last videos was how do we do backtesting? So we're going to show you, but first we want to show you the pipeline. All right, let's dive into it. So this is the hedge fund platform. This is just a simple dashboard. This actually is an interface to how we do all of our research and everything. Okay, we're not going to focus on this too much today. We're actually not going to focus on the backtest. So this is where we capture all of our backtests and our experiments in the software here. And what I want to show you is we run nightly backtest almost every night, basically after a trading session is complete. Following that night at 1 a.m., we always kick off a backtest. The reason this is important is because this is kind of like where, why the data is important. We need to be able to run backtests. We need to be able to see what's happening in our hedge fund. We need to be able to see what's happening in our live strategies to make sure that we know we're, doing well, or if there's an issue that's happening. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the data pipeline. One of the most important things is we have to orchestrate our data. So this is where we have code that is running, and we need to be able to run it in an automated fashion, okay? So all of our data ingestion process, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be re-downloading data every single night. So we have what are called a deployment. So we have many, many deployments. This is all of our orchestration and our automations. And what we do is this DGX nightly refresh. This is my hedge fund server. This every single night is going to run. And you can see here, so today is January 5th at the time of this recording. And you can see on the 3rd is the last time it ran. That was the last time after the last trading day. Okay. So every night, essentially, it runs. It's going to run a full price ingestion, fundamental ingestion. So this is what it does. We first build the system universe. We then download a bunch of price history. We then download fundamentals. This actually takes quite a bit because there's a ton of data that we got to download. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put it into a database. We're going to ingest it into Zipline bundles. Zipline is a software that we use to run our back tests. We download the company profiles and a little bit of extra data. And then we're going to do a little bit of data cleaning operations and those sorts of things. Okay. All right, so this is the automation. It runs every single night, okay? What software do we use? This is a software. I'll talk about this. I'll actually circle back to QS Connect, but this is a software that we've written. I personally have written this library. I own this one. It is a proprietary software, and it's the thing that is basically going to run everything you see underneath the hood here when I show you the code, okay? So we're going to flip over to some code here real quick. And the main thing that I want to share with you inside of our hedge fund, so this is our hedge fund software. This is the hedge fund platform that I've been building over the past 3+ years. And there's a database that we're going to be first staging or caching data. So these are files. This is like that initial data that we download from our different vendors. We have several different vendors that we use, but this would be like bulk. This is the bulk balance sheet. So this would be fundamental data. You can see we have tons and tons of these Parquet files. That is just the raw data that gets stored on our hard drive, okay? And this is gigabytes and gigabytes of data. I mean, we literally have so much darn data, it's crazy. Bulk ratios, historical prices, stock lists, etc. We have other data sources that we have in here. Then what we do is we store all of this data. We kind of use that QS Connect platform. So that's, let me go back here to this. So this QS Connect platform, we will download the raw data. I don't know if you can see this. Let me zoom in on this. So what QS Connect does, we'll download the raw data into these cached Parquet files, and then we're going to load it into our database, okay? So this is millions and millions of rows of price data, fundamental data, and we're going to see that now. So QS Connect will then process that and take these Parquet files, clean them up a little bit, and put them into this DuckDB database. Okay, this is called our QS Connect database. So let me open this. I'm going to open this with this thing called DB code. And what it's doing is it's opening a SQL connection so I can actually see what data we've got. So right now, this database is about 7 gigabytes in size. And it does have quite a bit of data in here. We've got 13 different tables in here. We have our stock list of 88,000 assets. So let me just click on that so you guys can see, what that looks like. And in here we've got 88,000. These are stocks, ETFs, what exchange they are being traded on. We have their last price, and we can do quick filters and searches on this. The next type of data is the price data. Many of you, if you're getting into algorithmic trading, you probably work with price data. So this is time series data on the open, high, low, close, and also volume of many different stocks. Again, this is kind of just raw data. We also have volume, a couple other features in here called, one's volume weighted price, and you can see the date and you can see the symbol in here. Okay, we have 27 million rows of that data, and this extends back about 30 years of historical, and this is daily data. So we're not running any intraday strategies currently. We're just running daily strategies. We do have other data that we can use for intraday, but we're going to focus on this particular strategy that we're running in our hedge fund. Now, this is where we get into fundamental data. So we're looking at ratios. So this would be data that are dependent on the company's fundamentals. That's the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. And all of these companies have to report annually and 4 times a year, quarterly, as well. So you can see what period they're reporting, what some of the values are, like their gross profit margin, their EBITDA margin, pre-tax profit. We have all of the any metric that we need to look into, receivables turnover, payables turnover, inventory turnover. We have that information. Price to earnings ratios, forward price to earning, all of that stuff. And this helps us combine this fundamental data with our price strategies, so that way we can create superior strategies that a lot of retail investors can't really do unless they have access to this more premium data. So we've got a lot of data in here, basically on every different asset. Okay, so that is all the data that we're basically processing every single night and keeping snapshots of and using for our back tests. Okay, let's go back here, see if there's anything else I can show you. I don't want to dive into necessarily the code line by line. I think that would be kind of boring. But what we use this data for is obviously to create our strategies and to back test those strategies. Those are going to be the next steps. So it's all related. If we go back to the automations, if I go to under deployments, so once this nightly refresh of the data completes, what will happen is then it'll kick off a nightly back test. So every night we take the production model that we're running in production, and we're going to run it on a nightly backtest. So this is the most recent nightly backtest that's going to use the updated database every single night. You can see artifacts that we keep on it. We can see, we track everything from performance, drawdowns, different ratios, different things that we're interested in. We want to understand, how the strategy would have done. So in 2024, this particular strategy returned 112%, 47% in 2025, and this is only after the first trading day, but it was a pretty good trading day, 5.16% on the first trading day of the year. So this strategy is very, very good. The models that are created, let me X out of that. This is the production model that we're running. And all of this is created and used from this data set, okay? And then all of that feeds in here, so we can do live ops, we can research and dive deeper into our strategies. We can even run different strategies and continuously test for new strategies from that data, okay? So we're constantly doing tons and tons of research and strategies. None of this is possible without that foundational data layer. All right, so there we go. That was the demo. Quick recap of what we covered today. So today you saw the hedge fund data layer. And what I mean by that, I mean the data sources that we're using, the ingestion process, the cleaning, the storage, the validation, all of that stuff. And if you want to see how all of this works in a real working system, Jason and me, Matt, we host a 1-hour live deep dive demo every 2 weeks. And inside there, I will personally walk through our actual Python powered platform. I'm going to show you how the strategies that we use, how they run, how we track performance, how we analyze risk, how we wire all of this into our back tests, including the data layer, and how our students can get access to similar tools. It's live. You can ask questions and you can get answers in real time. And we'll even show you the entire system under the hood, all the Python code that runs. Also, Jason will show you the execution end, which is what he's really good at. There's a link in the description and in the pinned comment. So if you want to grab a spot in your next session, stop right now and get that link, and you can join us live on the next session. All right. Part 6 is coming. So I'm going to show you our backtesting and walk forward validation workflow next, and how we make sure that we're not fooling ourselves, okay? So all this backtest stuff that I've just talked about, we're going to show you how that stuff gets run and do a deeper dive into that. That was one of our biggest comments. Make sure that you subscribe to get notified for when we release that video, and we're going to release it next week. And do me a favor, comment one word so I know what to teach next, okay? Do you want data? So comment data if you want more on data sources and the ingestion process. Comment validation if you want me to do a deeper dive on our full checklist and the things that we do inside to clean up our data. Comment backtest if you want part 6 next. And let me know what you want in the comments. All right, I will see you live in the next workshop. So I'm super excited. If you want to get a chance to meet me and dive deeper into the code, super excited for that. Make sure you register right now, and I will see you inside the next live workshop. All right, take care. Bye-bye.